Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the Club Junkie Podcast. Hopefully having a great week. It's already Thursday again. It's already November, which is crazy. Blink of an eye, we're going to be having Thanksgiving dinner. So before we get into today's episode, I just want to let you know this episode is brought to you by Titleist and the new GT series of woods. In pursuit of speed and playable distance, Titleist engineers developed a new material construction that unlocks the next generation of driving excellence. The new GT Drivers series represents the biggest technological leap ever in Titleist driver design. Inside the head, a new split mass construction positions weight both forward and back to optimize speed, launch angle, and spin to the specific player needs for each GT driver model. Like for me, GT2, I need that forgiveness, a little bit of spin, a little bit of launch to help me kind of hit it the furthest and kind of tighten up the misses that I had. From the outside, the GT Drivers features stunning, seamless thermoform crown, presenting a classic, confident package that feels as good as it looks. You don't even know it's a two-piece thing. It looks exactly like a Titleist driver, and all the models kind of have a similar shape and look to them, which is really, really cool. The GT's new crown construction also introduces a proprietary matrixed polymer, never before used in golf. This ultra-lightweight material offers the versatile performance of a composite while delivering Titleist's signature sound and feel. Experience a new class of drivers with Titleist GT. To learn more about each GT model and find a fitting event near you, visit Titleist.com. So hopefully you guys are having a good week. Like I said, it's crazy how fast it's going by. Just not, I need this year to slow down. I need the good weather to stay because I am trying to play as much golf as possible. I know it's tough to do, especially when you live in Detroit, but just trying to get through as much as possible, play some golf. And I haven't been out I've been out in the short game area, been on the range, been in my backyard hitting balls. I'm doing a lot of swings. I'm just haven't been playing a lot of golf. So it's one of those things I need to get out and play a little bit more, but I'll work on that as best I can. But yeah, today I'm going to talk about a couple different things. The nice thing is, got a ton of new gear in, and the downside is I got a ton of new gear that I can't talk about until next year. So I'm looking at clubs that I can't talk about for another 3 months basically, and it is such a bummer because all you want to do is go hit this stuff, which I'm going to go hit it before it comes out, but stuff that I can't talk about for another week, stuff that I can't talk about for another couple months, it's a little bit of a bummer. So I'm looking across at boxes, and it's just going to be that time of year, and I'm going to be having a little bit of travel beginning December, go see some new stuff as well. So there's so much new product. It's just it's awesome. So exciting times in the world of golf, especially if you're kind of a gear nut like me, which I think most of you are. I don't think anybody casually, who cares about gear casually is listening to this podcast, nor cares as much as we do about golf equipment. But seeing a lot of stuff, and it's pretty cool. So excited, got a few things in. We're going to talk today about the new Titleist Vokey WedgeWorks K-Grind or K-Star grind, and then also talk about the new Tour Edge irons. So I've been hitting both of those. But I got some new, I got the new Seymour Black Mini Giant drivers or putters. Really, really good. I've never been a big Seymour guy. The alignment thing has always been a struggle for me. But it's interesting. These two I've been rolling really, really well. Down in my basement on my mat. I've got to get out and get them on the putting green as well. But rolling them really, really well around here. And then it's they've got a Kevin Burns putter that's really, really nice. I'm excited. I'm going to probably do that one next week. Had that one on the short game or the practice green the other day. Super, super nice. Great feel to it. And then there's a bunch of stuff else that'll be coming out next week that we can talk more about. But it's just a crazy time. So having a lot of fun hitting stuff. But before we jump into that stuff, we'll talk today about the new Vokey 60 K-Grind. So this is a Titleist Vokey WedgeWorks K-Star grind. And brand new out, just came out, I think yesterday or earlier in the week. But basically the brand new edition. They've done, I feel a lot of WedgeWorks stuff this year. I feel this year we've seen more WedgeWorks stuff than we have in typical years. I feel typical years we see maybe 2 WedgeWorks designs. This year I feel we've seen a ton of different ones, which is really cool. I want to say this is 4th or 5th. Between this A+ grind, L grind, V grind, and I think they did a low bounce K earlier in the year, something like that. So there's been a lot of different of options that have come out for WedgeWorks, and a bunch of stuff that we feel seen on tour, seen in the forums, and you just never know if you're gonna get your hands on that stuff. So this one is really cool. The cool thing about this one, actually, I was actually out at Titleist TPI for driver fitting, and I was out there for the GT driver fitting last or over the, was it over the summer or end of last year, whatever it was. But anyway, I was out at TPI for my GT driver fitting, and I saw this wedge, and it was in one of the guys' bags, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, like what's this? My buddy, my boy Shane out there for Titleist was out there at TPI. He was doing some fitting stuff, and he had it in his bag, and I was like, whoa, what's that? And he's like, well, it's something special, and he kind of hinted to me that we may see it at some point, but he didn't know exactly when. And his was all rusted out and all that, and his was actually hand ground. He actually ground it, and it was stamped, K-Star and all that. Like, it wasn't as polished and finished as the retail version. But I saw it there, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I love the pre-worn leading edge on it, the trailing edge or the trailing edge relief, all that looked really cool. I'm like, for tight conditions, this thing must be just awesome. And he's like, yep. It was, so it finally is out now, and it's something cool that I saw a little bit ago. And if you go to basically Titleist description of this wedge, this grind here, the K grind, it's basically built for firmer conditions, shallower swings, and players who play on really tight lies. But it adds basically the trailing edge relief is going to allow you to open the face up without the leading edge coming off. The pre-worn leading edge helps get that leading edge down on the ground for those tight lies. So, but there's still a decent amount of sole. Like when you open the face, there's still a decent amount of sole there. Dynamic bounce that out of traps, all that, it should work pretty well. But I took this thing out to the short game area over at St. Clair Shores for, geez, I was probably there for an hour and a half. I was, excuse me, I was hitting. Basically, I just had this wedge and a putter, and that was it. And I was basically putting and hitting shots with this 60 degree, and that was it the whole time I was there. I didn't bring any other clubs. I didn't go play. I literally just hit these two the whole time. And the 60K Plus or K-Star is really, really good. I've been playing the V grind a lot. I started out playing the A Plus grind when it came out. When I got fit into SM10, I got fit into the S grind. That didn't really work out for me that well. I then hit the A Plus grind, really liked it, thought that worked really well for me. And then when the V grind came out, having a little more bounce compared to the L, it was great. So I've been playing the V grind a whole lot. But then when this came out, of course, it just looks cool. So I wanted to go try it. So went out there on the practice green and hit a bunch of different shots from all over the place. Whether hitting shots out of the rough, hitting shots from the tight fringe or over near the the putting green there, chipping green both. It's pretty big. It's decent size. It's probably 50 yards from one side to another. And there's a little area on the left that is actually mowed fairway grass. That's for, chip shots and stuff like that. And then the rest of around it is pretty much rough. There's unfortunately no bunkers. The bunker's the only thing I haven't done with this thing. But they got a lot of different shots you can hit. And there's a ton of undulation, and there's different kind of sections of the putting green. So you can kind of hit different shots. And when there's other people there, you can kind of pick out a little spot or a little section of the green and hit shots there. And, typically you don't bother it. So there was a guy kind of putting in the middle. There was two guys actually having like a little chipping kind of short game contest at one end. And then I went to the other end and pretty much had it all to myself for the most part, most of the day. So around the green, especially with the 60 degree, when it comes to 60s, I'm not a full shot guy. Like full shot lob wedges are just a recipe for disaster for me. I typically hit them fat. I get really steep, and I don't hit the green that often. I don't get it close to the hole. So for me, if I'm somewhere where I'm even, say, 40 yards away from the green, excuse me, or away from the pin, and I have not much in the way of, hazards or anything, in the way, I'm probably going to hit 56. I just rather hit a shorter swing, like, kind of 50%, 56 degree, as opposed to try to hitting a 3/4 or fuller type 60 degree. So for me, this is around the greens. This is out of the bunker. If I'm short-sided, if there's something I've got to carry, like a bunker, or, if the green has kind of like a little kidney shape and you got to carry the rough and land it in a smaller spot, I'll use the 60 there. But it's really for, just around the green for the most part. But it was, so it worked out great, because those are the shots I'm going to use it for. So got there, and the first thing I noticed, I threw down a couple balls, and in that little chipping area, which is fairway cut, the first thing I noticed when I set this thing down is the leading edge just goes straight to the ground. Like, it is on the turf. it's low, and if you're playing super firm, super tight, lies, this leading edge is going to be down on the ground. You're going to be able to get the ball, the club under the ball with no problem, even if you're more of a picker or sweeper. You don't get real steep. This thing stays down, in the neutral kind of square position. That leading edge just stays way down. And I was really shocked, and I kind of like was looking for it almost in every lie that I was hitting, and it was just that way. So when you set this thing down square, you've got the club square to the target. You're not opening the face or doing anything to kind of manipulate it. You're not like pressing it forward. That leading edge is super low to the ground. So if you're playing those firm, tight fairway lies, or you play a course that doesn't have, like in Michigan, most of the courses around the green is like heavy, deep rough. Like it's lush, it's thick, and you don't need these super low bounce wedges and stuff like that. I wouldn't say they won't work there, but that's typically not what they're designed for. Where I've played other courses, other places where around the green is super tight, super firm. Like there's no rough. It's all like fairway cut, super thin, and I think this wedge is built exactly for that. As I said, leading edge stays down, and if you're playing just a standard square shot, you're going to have a ton of confidence that getting under the ball is going to be no problem. If you are someone who, wants to kind of play it a little back in the stance, play it low, that low kind of spinner that kind of hits twice and stops, again, that pre-worn leading edge allows you to get that leading edge down, hit that shot, and again, no worries of, the bounce interfering, or, hitting a little low on the face because, the leading edge is up too high. Really able to hit those square type shots really, really well and really easily. And with that pre-worn leading edge, the nice thing too is that, when you are kind of hitting those shots that are just kind of square to the target, it is it glides through the turf really well. Like when it gets to the turf, it hits and just kind of glides through and it's out. It's actually got really good turf interaction with those little shots like that. I think the A grind or the A plus grind is a little faster through those type of shots for me, at least up here in our conditions. It's a little faster through the turf in general, but that shot there on those really tight lies, this thing scoots through pretty darn quick. The other nice thing is if you do want to open it, the leading edge stays down pretty well. That trailing edge relief, that heel relief, that leading edge doesn't come crazy off the ground when you open up the face. So if you are going to hit kind of like a higher flop shot off a tight lie, you're going to be able to do that and do that with really no problem whatsoever. Now, basically, I went around hitting different shots, and the one thing I noticed was off the fairway cuts, it was awesome. This thing was so good. I was able to kind of, I don't hit super high flop shots, but I went around, had the face open a little bit, hit some higher lofted shots where, like I said, on the right side of the green, there's kind of a little bit, it kind of turns off to the left a little bit when you're looking at the green. It kind of turns off to the left, and there's kind of a little section where it's a kind of a mound, so you can throw some balls on the other side of the mound and kind of go up over the mound onto the green and kind of try to land it near the hole. And hitting shots off like the first cut right there, the fringe, I was hitting kind of those shots just a little bit open faced, just get them up over, let them hit on the hill, let them release down, and it was super easy to hit those shots. You had to be a little bit more precise than say A+, only because there's just a little less soul to work with. So this will maybe dig just a hair more than A+, but it's really easy to hit. And I think if you're a skilled player who plays a lot of those shots, and that's a lot of your game because of the course and the conditions and all that, this is going to make it really easy and really versatile to let you open that face, even just a little bit. If you're just opening a little bit to get that shot with a little bit more spin, a little bit more height, easy to do. So around the fringe, I was playing, kind of those shots, a little back in the stance, pressed forward, and again, easy to hit. The ball kind of comes off the face, checks up hard, and it was just really easy to hit those shots. Like I never felt like I had to be insanely precise. Like I felt like I could just take the swing and just hit the shot, and it would turn out, the way I thought it would, and it definitely did. And of course, much like the SM10s, the spin milled face on this produces a good amount of spin, no matter what. If you're in the rough, if you're in the on the fairway, but yeah, opened up, square, pressed forward, press the wedge forward a little bit back in the stance. All those shots off tight lies are really good. Out of the rough, it depends a little bit on the lie. Like for me, again, I am not a crazy skilled wedge player, so I don't have every shot in the book at my disposal. And in the rough, it kind of a little bit depended on the lie, and I had to be very, I think, cognizant of the lie. If the ball was sitting up in the rough, kind of sitting up high, I would notice that I would catch it maybe a little bit higher in the face than I do with the V grind. The V grind, I felt even if the ball's up, there's enough bounce there that the wedge doesn't, kind of sink under the ball and you hit it high in the face and it comes out kind of high and soft with no spin and just kind of lands on the green short. I did feel like I had to think about that a little bit. And there were a couple shots that I caught higher on the face, not horribly, and they worked out okay. But I noticed that, the ball would catch a little bit higher in the face of balls that were sitting up. I would get down just under it just a little bit more. And I think those same shots with, say, V-grind would turn out just a little bit better, having just a touch more bounce there. But again, this wedge is built for, a little bit shallower swing, a little bit firmer conditions. So hitting it out of that isn't really its forte. It's not what it's kind of built for. But out of the rough, it worked really well. When I kind of remembered, looked at the line, and kind of executed the shot I needed to hit, it worked pretty well. Opening the face, again, catching it a little higher in the face compared to, say, V or A grind or A plus grind. Catching a little bit higher in the face, and again, had to be a little more aware of my surroundings. The nice thing is balls that sat down, that sank down, because I would just basically throw, the two or three balls that I would have, I just throw them into the rough. And the ones that sat down, this thing was actually really good at, because even there was a little bit of grass behind the ball, but it was sitting down, this thing getting down under it was super easy to get down, get that leading edge below the ball, pop it out, and get it onto the green. And it actually carried a decent amount of spin. So those type of shots were great. When the ball was sitting down and it was kind of a little bit buried, you could really chop things out with this K-Star grind, and it worked really, really well. I was actually kind of surprised. I thought, again, I thought it was going to be a little bit of a struggle, take a little bit more to hit those. Really, really easy. It was just those shots where the ball was sitting up. But overall, I've been really impressed. I think this is a really, really good wedge. I think it's really versatile. I think, for a player up here in really soft conditions, around Detroitish area, I think if you're a shallower player, you could still play this with no problem. It's not going to be too demanding. It's not going to dig too much. The divots on it, when I was kind of hitting shots kind of across the green, so those 40-ish yard shots, from the short game or from the chipping area across, I did hit a few of those, and shots there, divot-wise, were pretty good. It got through the turf pretty quickly. Again, I don't think it's as fast with the turf as A+ grind, but it gets through the turf pretty quick. It does take just a slightly bigger divot to me. Not crazy, but a little bit, slightly larger divot. But again, I think if you're playing a little bit firmer or you're a little bit more of a picker, this thing's going to give you some versatility. The sole, I think, is going to perform really well. I think you're going to get good turf interaction. It's going to feel good for those players. So if you're someone who's looking for a versatile grind that you can hit a lot of different shots with, and you play a little bit firmer, or you're a little bit shallower swing type player, I think this thing's going to work really well. And it's one of those where I'll probably stick to the V grind. As much as I love how this looks, and I really want to have this in the bag, I'm probably going to stick to the V grind. I think it's just better for my swing. But this thing here, again, really solid, really versatile. I could see why you see a lot of this starting to show up on tour. Just allows you to hit a lot of different shots, especially for for those guys playing super tight stuff. So yeah, if you're a player who's looking for something that's not crazy high bounce, not for really steep swings and all that, this thing's made in 58 and 60. I was hitting the 60, but the K-grind, really, really good. And again, I haven't hit it out of the trap. That's the only thing. But when I was looking at it and kind of you open the face, there's a decent amount of sole that kind of drops down there. So I think float-wise in a fairly soft bunker or softer sand, I think it's still going to get a decent amount of float. In firmer sand, I think it's going to work really, really well. I just, unfortunately, haven't had it out in the bunker. But around that putting green, I probably hit shots for an hour with this thing. I would have to, actually go to my truck halfway through, or not even halfway through. I had to go to my truck before because there was so much grass in the grooves. I had to clean it all out, and I didn't bring a towel because I didn't think about it. But I went through and hit a whole lot of shots with it. So feel on it's good as well. I mean, it feels just like any of the other WedgeWorks clubs. Soft to it, has just enough click to kind of give you that audible feedback. And yeah, I mean, pretty much if you catch it in the groove somewhere, it's going to come off with a decent amount of spin, and is very predictable. So K+, I think fits a player. Again, like I said, somebody plays in a little bit firmer conditions, someone who's kind of more of a picker or sweep type swing player, a little shallower player, who wants to be able to play a bunch of different shots. They want to be able to flight it down low. They want to hit it high. They want to open the face, play little kind of flop shots and things like that. I think it gives those type players a whole lot of creativity and the ability to kind of work around those shots with you. So the 60K+ or K-Star, I think Titleist did a really nice job with this one. I'm pretty excited. If I ever go play tighter, firmer conditions, I mean, I'm going to bring this bad boy because I think it's going to just flat out excel. So, but around here, I think I'll probably stick to the V grind. So if you go to Vokey.com and go over to WedgeWorks, they list all the wedges, and this is the K-Star grind, but only make it in 56 and 60. Unfortunately, I think they only make it in right hand. I don't know. I'm trying to see. I'm actually on the site, and I think they only, oh no, they make the, no, they don't make it with left hand, unfortunately, so I apologize. But right hand only, 60, it's a 60.06, so 6 degrees of bounce, and a 58.06 as well. So 58.06, 60.06, only comes in raw, so raw finish, so it's going to rust over time. I love that about it. Mine still looks, if you're watching this on YouTube, mine looks still pretty darn clean. It hasn't rusted yet, but it does rust over time, which is awesome. I love raw wedges. They're my absolute favorite. But yeah, a really good one here, and something that is definitely worth trying. So again, Vokey.com, click on the WedgeWorks and check out the K-Star grind and see what it can do for you. But no, really good, solid one. I like that one. Like I said, I wanted this one to go in the bag, and as much as I probably could get away with it, I'm better off with the V grind. So we'll just keep rolling with that, which is fine. I like the V grind a lot. It's done really well for me, and I've been a big fan. So all right, so then the next thing I've been hitting it a little bit with basically on the range in my backyard is, we've talked earlier, I talked about Tour Edge brought out the new drivers, the C725, or the Exotics C725 and the E725. And really surprising, they did a 3-swing challenge with the E725. It was really good. I was really impressed with it. And they've got some irons, and they've got 2 different models. Excuse me. And of course, the E725 is built more for forgiveness and distance. And then you have the C725, which is built more for kind of the player's distance. The player who wants a little smaller package, wants a little distance, but they also want to maybe work the ball a little bit and, you know, do things with it, shape their shots a little. They're a little better player. They're just looking for a little more distance. But both irons are brand new out this year. E725, definitely a little larger overall, thicker top line, a little more offset. It's just a bigger blade in general, a little wider sole, but they did kind of some nice stuff with the sole, with like kind of a little undercut there to take some of the material away to kind of give it a little quicker turf interaction. But both of them are hollow body designs, so you're going to see basically, you know, again, thin faces. Trying to pull up the stuff here. So you're going to have thin faces, good feel and sound, because they're going to kind of, you know, make these things. Everything hollow body kind of has a good soft feel to it. So you're going to get a lot of that out of it. But both irons really, really solid, and they both feature, you know, the diamond face technology, 3D diamond face. So that face that is hot, you're going to have little behind it, little milled in diamonds that kind of help open up the sweet spot a little bit, add some little ball speed, add a little ball speed away from center. They've got their VibraCore technology in both of these. So again, muting some of that sound and vibration, some of the feel. And yeah, both of them have kind of a little like TPU badge in the back. Again, it's like carbon or composite material, and both of them kind of have it, and basically used to also dampen some vibration. Now the C725 has a little interchangeable weight as well. So if they're custom building these, you can actually change the weights on them for swing weight. I don't know if they will actually send you weights, like if you're going to go reshaft a set, you know, would they actually send you them? I don't know. I haven't tried, I haven't asked, but who knows, maybe. So they've got those, and then with irons, they also make a third iron called the X725. I didn't hit that one. I just was kind of hitting these two a whole lot. So the E looks really good for what it is, for being the size, everything that it is. It's a really good, nice design. It doesn't look that big. I mean, it's a big iron, but it's not overly massive, and it does have a whole lot of tech into it. And the funny thing is like, you know, when you look at you know, Tour Edge, everybody kind of thinks, I think, you know, a little less expensive and all that, but their Exotics line, they pack a ton of tech into these irons. So both really, really solid. You know, of course, from address, I love the C. The C725 is kind of the one that I like the best. It's got that thinner top line, it's overall kind of a bigger blade, you know, in terms of size. There's a whole lot of face there, but the top line is actually pretty thin, and the sole isn't crazy wide either. Like it pretty much probably, I think size-wise plays maybe in that I-230 range. It may be a hair bigger than that, but it probably plays right around that I-230, the, you know, Apex AI-200. It probably plays a little bit smaller than that. I would say it's almost Tie Fusion in terms of size. I'd have to set it down next to those and see. But it's an iron that I think, you know, handicap-wise, you're going to look at, you know, players who are kind of 15 and under are going to play this iron. You know, at the 15, maybe at the high end, you should probably be maybe looking at the E a little bit more. But I think 15 and under, you're going to see the C725s go into bags there. But a good look. I mean, like I said, I've seen some of the Tour Edge irons before. They've done a really nice job with a lot of them. And this one, I think, is another solid option if you're looking for something that is kind of in that player's distance category, but you don't want something crazy tiny. It definitely has that. So it's got just a little bit of offset. The top line is fairly thin for what it is. Toe is kind of squared off, so a good look. It's got just a little bit of offset, just a slightly rounded leading edge, nothing too crazy. But overall looks really good. And then from the back, I think it looks pretty solid. I know sometimes some stuff from Tour Edge gets a little you know, a little crazy with the look. These I think are pretty, you know, pretty standard with just the chrome, the black weight, and the black badge in the back. It's pretty simple, so nothing too crazy there. So I think they did a nice job. They come with, you know, pretty nice components. I mean, this comes with just a dynamic gold mid 115 in the C723, and then the E came with the KBS Tour Light. So two solid shafts, lambkin grips, or I mean Golf Pride 2 or 360 grips. So, I mean, really solid. And, yeah, went out and hit them. I've been kind of hitting them on the range, hitting them in my backyard. So, the one thing I can say about both of these is they are both fairly long. The one thing I was kind of surprised was the C725 was not as crazy long as I thought it was going to be. I thought this thing was just going to be a real heater with no spin, and it's not. I think a lot of these companies are starting to realize that with the player's distance stuff, it doesn't have to be zero spin and all ball speed. Like they can add a little spin, have a little bit of control. Guys want to hit it a little bit further, but they're not looking for zero control and hitting it a mile. And these came out and had a little bit of spin, which was kind of nice. And I was kind of shocked at it. Now, the E series definitely has a less spin than this, but they were you know, spinnier than I thought. But the C725, really good look to it, really good sound and feel. When it sits behind the ball, gives you a little bit of confidence because it is big. You know, it doesn't, you know, demand that you hit it dead center every time. You're going to be able to get away with hitting, you know, hitting a few shots that maybe aren't dead center that are still going to go a good ways. The first swing on this, I hit it way off the toe. The first swing, which I had my net set up in my backyard, hit it way off the toe, just, you know, first swing. And I want to say that ball went like 160 something, like, or 159. And I was like, that ball should not have gone anywhere close to that. And from the dispersion chart on the full swing kit, it was only a little bit left to target. Like, I was really shocked of how decent of a shot that was. But yeah, 7-iron for the C725 plays off 30 degrees, and the E series is going to play off a little bit stronger than that. It plays off 27. So 42 pitching wedge, 27 degree 7-iron, and we're looking at a 44 degree pitching wedge on the C725 and a 30 degree 7-iron. So the C series is pretty much becoming what player's distance is. Slightly stronger. You know, I consider a 45 pitching wedge and like a 28 to 29 degree 7-iron to be kind of standard nowadays. So these are just a hair stronger. When you look at a lot of irons in this category, I think they all are a little bit stronger. But first shot, hit off the toe, went straighter and further than I thought, and then proceeded to hit some really good ones that, while they were long, they weren't like crazy long like I thought they were. They definitely had some control to them. There isn't, like I said, that uncontrollable kind of like zero spin flyer that just gets out there. You know, like with the E series, I kind of noticed that a little bit, that distance-wise, I could see some balls that really flew, and they had very low spin, and they just really went. Where this one here, I didn't see that, but the spin was pretty consistent. It stayed in kind of the mid to high fives, into 6,000. So, you know, mid fives to just over 6,000. Depending on the shot, you know, if you're hitting something that goes a little left, you're going to see a little bit lower spin, you know, close to that 55. hitting some stuff with that higher and right, you're going to see more in the, into the sixes. But that day and age of the 7-iron should have 7,000 RPM of spin and whatever, like that doesn't necessarily apply anymore. It typically between ball and club is a little bit lower, and most fitters they kind of see about 1,000 less. So like a 7 spins around 6, and depending on the iron may spin even less than that. So it's not exactly so. So these do have some spin, but I saw anything from yes, I had a couple shots that were in the low 5s. I think even like a couple that were in like the 48, 4900 that were like, big draws and stuff like that. But then saw stuff on the right that, was into the higher 6s when you had stuff that was a little bit more fade bias and started off to the right. So the sound and feel, though, on this is really good. I was really impressed with how soft these feel. When you hit a dead center, it is just super flush. It has that hollow body, soft feel to it. You take away a lot of vibration. You feel the ball kind of compress off the face, and it just goes. And that was a big thing of these is hitting a dead center. It felt really solid. As you missed it, the feel was still really good. Like I said, that first ball that I hit off the toe that went left, I was waiting for like my hands to ring, and they didn't. It was actually you had more definitely audible click to it. You heard it more, and you could feel that it was a little more harsh. But it definitely wasn't as bad as I thought. Like I was waiting to kind of like, you're just kind of waiting for your hands to sting, and didn't get any of that. My miss lately has been more kind of low on the face, kind of low toe. I kind of have this early extension. I kind of come out of it a little bit, and hitting it there, that's where you could maybe find enough vibration to kind of like, get to the hands a little bit, but it was really more muted than I thought. So feel on it was really solid. You knew exactly where you hit it. When you hit a dead center, it had a good soft feel, but it wasn't like mushy. It wasn't dead. You knew you caught it in the center. You knew the ball compressed. And then flight on it was really good. I thought this thing was easy to launch. It got in the air quickly. It was actually higher flying than I thought it would be. Now, I don't know if that's part of the shaft, but I mean, I consider the KBS Tour Light a little higher flying than this Dynamic Gold Mid. And this I felt was easier to elevate than the E series. Now, this is, weaker lofted, so there's more loft. The ball gets up in the air, but it definitely was easy to launch. It definitely was able to hit it high and let it land soft. So those things were really easy. I was really impressed with how playable these are. And that's why kind of in the beginning I said handicap range. You'll probably see some people that are like 12 to 15 that are playing this iron. I think it's totally possible with the amount of forgiveness and the distance that you get out of this. And then after that, around that range, you'll probably kind of float on that E or C kind of line, depending on how comfortable with you are on the irons. But easy to launch, went high, and would definitely land soft. When you watch it land on the range, it just kind of dropped and maybe hopped, and that was it. Now, I wasn't driving out to those shots to see how far it released out on the old like little green out there, but those shots were easy to tell they were coming down pretty straight and landing pretty softly. The one thing too, this thing starts off on a really kind of neutral flight. So for me, compared to the E basically started a little left and wanted to basically draw. Like when I look at the dispersion chart of the E, everything was kind of like on the straight line or left. And with this here, there was less of that left. Like you cut it in half, and there were a few balls that were out on the right as well. So definitely a little more neutral bias, a little easier to turn over. I think it's the slightly shorter blade length compared to the E, was just easier to hit a little bit straighter. So, but yeah, distance-wise, really solid. I saw shots that, getting up close to 170, which for me for a 7-iron is super long. But my average on it, I'll give you a few of the numbers here. My average carry with the 7-iron, so the C725 7-iron, my average carry was 162. And I don't delete, again, I tell you guys, like I don't delete every shot. Like I don't keep just perfect shots. Like I keep shots that there were 155, that were, 154 or whatever that you kind of missed. They're still in there. I keep those in there. And then there's a couple of those like 168s that you really flushed it and crushed it. It was there. But on average, out of all the shots, which I don't even know how many there were a lot. I hit a lot of shots of this thing. It was 162 was average carry. Spin on these was 5901. And when I was hitting balls like earlier, I had, RCT Pro V1Xs with the full swing kit. So about as, good as I can get with terms of getting a spin number, but 5901. And again, saw some stuff in the 6s when it was, a little bit of fade. Saw some stuff that went lower when you drew it. But really, really straight ball flight. Ball speed on this, 113.6, almost 114. Pretty fast, I feel like, for a player's distance iron. Compared it to, you know, some stuff out there like the Thai Fusion that I hit a few weeks ago, and it's like just behind that. I think my Thai Fusion was 113.9. These are 113.6. So, I mean, pretty much right there with those in terms of ball speed. Then, like I said, spin was 59.01, 113.6. Launch was 19.6. So 19.6, again, I thought this was pretty good. It kind of matched. I was hitting a handful of irons out there. I had a bunch of 7 irons. And this was probably the highest out of the distance irons there. I had one kind of like Forge CB with some weaker lofts that matched this in terms of launch. But 19.6 on the launch, easy to get up in the air, high shots, landed softly, and it was pretty effortless. Where the other clubs, you know, had some stuff that came out a little lower, but this came out high and landed soft. Had an apex on 91 feet, which was actually the highest out of everything I hit, which was pretty crazy. But 91 feet was my apex there. Smash factor 132 was my average over all the shots, and the club head speed on this was 85.2. So 85.2 miles an hour. It's not crazy fast, but, you know, it is what it is. But this thing here, really, really solid. I think it's a really kind of underrated iron. Forgiveness-wise, I think it was really good. The drop in ball speed, like I said, I don't think I ever saw a ball on a launch mount that was under like 154 out of all my misses. Which, again, I'm like, to me, I play 160 to 165, depending on the iron, whatever, when I'm on the course for a 7 iron. I don't think I saw a ball go below 154. And then I saw a couple that were, you know, around 168. But I mean, it was pretty tight in terms of the distance control. And then in terms of dispersion, fairly tight as well. I would have to say these are pretty forgiving. Again, they're on the bigger side. They're bigger than, like, say, a P770 or a T150 or something like that. So they, I think, are closer to kind of that I-230 in terms of stability and forgiveness. It kind of has that feel to it. The ball just wants to kind of go straight, and it does that. So yeah, but these were the C725s. I really liked them a lot. I think those things are really solid. And then the E was really good as well. I mean, honestly, I hit a lot of good shots. I would say the big difference in the E, these things just want to go straight, and they have a little bit of draw to them. Everything that I had started out either straight or slightly left. And again, when you look at the dispersion chart, I think the last session I hit on the range, the last session I hit, I mean, I think the first 5 balls you could have thrown like a towel down, and they would have been in the same spot. It was super consistent, hit a couple really good ones. But again, like the first swing with most clubs, I hit it really, really good. And I think it was like 178 was the first shot I hit. So 178 is a little long. That's pretty crazy. Also with this, they don't spin as much. So they do get up and they go really, really far. But in terms of dispersion, super tight. They're very forgiving. If you're somebody who kind of misses it a little bit right, I feel like these offer that little bit of help, little bit of correction. They start on a slightly more left line, and they do want to draw just a little bit more. And when I look at the charts, this definitely had an oval that went a little further left than the C725. Sound and feel on these is really good. This one here, definitely, actually, I felt was almost a little bit softer than the C725 in terms of feel. I felt like this one deadened even more vibration. I felt no matter where I hit it on the face, I wouldn't get a whole lot of vibration to the hands. Like, it would just absorb it. Misses that were kind of low toe, which is my miss, were kind of taken out. I mean, you could hear it. You knew, you know, from the sound that you mishit it, and you just knew from the swing. But the ball itself didn't really, like, you just didn't get that vibration to your hands. It was really kind of crazy how much vibration they had. Now, on dead center shots, not quite as soft. The flush ones, this had a little firmer feel to it, just a little more click than the C725, but these are really, really soft. They're really solid, and they're really easy to hit, and they just go straight, and they go far, and the distance drop off between the, you know, good shots and bad shots was even tighter than with the C series. You could kind of hit it all over the face, and they just go. Now, for me, these do come in at a much, you know, these are a stronger lofted. These come in 42 pitch, as I said, 27.5 doing 7 iron. And for me, like, I'm not a super high ball hitter, so these kind of stronger lofted irons, I tend to hit a little bit lower. Like, I don't hit them crazy high, even though there's a ton of mass and a ton of weight low in the head. I have them come out just a little bit flat for me, and this one showed here. It was about a degree lower launching than the C725, but still easy to hit, really forgiving, stable as anything. I mean, you can hit it anywhere on the face, and the ball just pretty much goes pretty straight. And, you know, for most players probably go higher than I hit them, but they just go straight, and they have just that little bit of draw or just a little bit of left starting line. but really, really solid. Now, they do have a little thicker top line and all that, but they should. You know, that's what they're built around. But these things there definitely have some serious speed. The only thing with me, I've noticed that when I really did kind of hit one kind of high toe and left, or, you know, something like that, it wouldn't spin much. So I was a little concerned about that, but overall, not too bad. So distance on these, the E725s, carry on average was 166, so 4 yards longer than the C. And there were some, like I said, 178s, 177s. I mean, there were some really hot ones out there that went. Spin wise, 5437. That's actually higher than I thought. When I was kind of looking back at the launch monitor, I was seeing some stuff in you know, into the fours. Even saw one or two in like the low 4100. So definitely some lower spin ones, which, you know, again, helps with some of the distance, but, you know, control wise for certain players, that may not be the easiest thing. Ball speed though, 115.7. These things rockets. They went, I mean, 2 miles an hour faster than the 725s or the C725s. But launch 18.2. And again, I launched these a little bit lower. I seem to do it P770s, you know, you name it, you take some of the stronger lofted irons, and I just don't hit them as high for whatever reason. But 18.2, I think most players will still be able to launch these pretty easily. Smash factor 134, as you'd expect, a little bit faster, with a club speed of 85.3. So just about exactly the same as the C725. But yeah, super forgiving, super stable, and they go a long way. So for the player looking for distance and forgiveness, this thing is built right around that, and the feel is really solid as well. But both irons perform really well. If you want to check out more of the specs of them, just go to touredge.com, and if you go under exotic or under clubs and the irons, you will basically see the 725 series there. So definitely pretty good. I mean, I have to say, I mean, for the money too, C725s come in at, you know, $8.99 for a 7-piece set and $7.99 for the E725s for a 7-piece set. So for what you're getting, I mean, a really nice built set of irons that feels good, sounds good, and really performs. It's they're definitely something that is a good value. So go check those out. I was impressed with them. I think they did really well. I think the C725 could fit a lot of players out there who are looking for something in that category. So check those out there. Those are the Tour Edge Exotics C and E 725 irons. So yeah, that's all I've got. That's what I'm done today. So hopefully you guys have a good weekend. Enjoy it. Hopefully you can play some golf if it's still warm out. And yeah, if you could, like, subscribe, whatever, wherever you're listening to the podcast, or if you're on YouTube, search for Club Junkie. You'll find it there. And then also follow me on Instagram at Club Junkie Pod. But hopefully, yeah, have a great weekend. And we'll jump into it next week. Definitely got some new stuff to talk about there as well. And we'll keep rolling. So have a good one. We'll talk to you next week.